Hey everybody, happy afternoon, wherever you are in the world. We get so many people from all over the world. Let's see, lots of people on already. Thank you. We have a very special treat for you today. I am going to give us a little time to get started and hopefully tell us where you're from. My goodness. I am waiting for my friend, Charles Fay. So hopefully he'll join me soon. But hello, Ohio, Venezuela, Connecticut, Sydney, New York, Germany. I used to live in Germany. Russia, Lebanon. I've been to Lebanon. My family is Lebanese. Love Lebanon. Vacaville. Our first imaging clinic was in Vacaville in Northern California. So let's see. Let's see if Charles has come on yet. Not yet. What we are going to talk about today is how to deal with worries during the pandemic, particularly for school. And then at 4 o'clock Pacific time, we are going to have an event. We're going to have a special event, 4 o'clock Pacific, on the single greatest thing you can do for your child back to school. That is what is going on today, and I'm just waiting for my friend Charles Fay from the Love and Logic Institute to join me. I don't see him on yet. If anybody sees him on, let me know, and I will send him an invite to get this. Event, loveandlogic.com, 4 p.m. This live will be available later. Baden-Baden, it's a beautiful place. Single greatest thing is ditch the mask. You know, it's like the serenity prayer is, I had patients today already, and you know, I must say this a lot, is, let's see. Let me try this again. Somebody from the Love and Logic Institute reached out. So let's hope that's Charles. There he is.
Hey, Daniel. Hello, everybody. I was technologically challenged here, to be quite frank. Full disclosure.
Hello, my friend.
Hello, Daniel. So good to see you.
Well, we are spending the afternoon together, aren't we?
Yes, we are. Yes, talking about helping kids succeed in school from a teacher standpoint, and then also from a parenting standpoint. And hello, everybody. Great to be with all of you. This topic is near and dear to my heart, and I know it is to my friend Daniel's. And can I jump in real quick and just share some random thoughts?
Well, first, we're gonna be on another platform at 4 o'clock, and someone had put the link. You can also go to loveandlogic.com and sign up for the seminar we have at 4 o'clock. It's free, and at 4 o'clock we're going to talk to parents. But now we want to talk about teachers. So it's all yours, Charles.
Oh, well,
Well, I want to introduce you since you're on my
okay.
Instagram platform. A
Do
lot
that.
of people might not know you, but Charles is the president of the Love and Logic Institute. He's a psychologist. He has been creating content, teaching it literally around the world on how parents and teachers can raise healthy kids. And we use his program in our house, and it's just one of the most powerful things that I have ever seen, and think everybody should be Love and Logic parents and Love and Logic teachers. So how's that for an introduction?
My goodness, that was beautiful. Thank you so much. That means so much to me. And I want to say, teachers, educators, we love you. You know, if it wasn't for you, I would not be doing what I do. And that's a real statement. There was many special teachers, but one I can think of was my seventh grade junior high school. That's what they used to call it, of course. I was a junior high school boy. Just let that sink in for a moment, just that concept, junior high school boy. And with learning issues. And I had a major attitude, I mean, a big one, and wasn't doing any work and just grumpy. And this teacher came along, English class. Okay, now let that sink in. English, 14-year-old boy. Okay, with some issues. And so I wasn't going to do my work. And you've seen these kids teachers, they just sit there and glare at you, huff a lot. And so I'm sitting there and glaring and huffing and pretending like I have no vital signs. And she walks up and I'm ready, and I am ready for her. It's going to be good because she's going to get an attitude, and then I'm going to get an attitude, and then she's going to get a bigger attitude, and I'm going to get a bigger one, and then I'm going to end up in the principal's office, and who cares, right? Well, she walks up and she smiles. I thought, well, something's wrong there. And she just kind of leaned in and whispered, and she said, "It is so good to have you in my class. And if there's anything that I can do to help, please let me know." And she just walked away and started working with some other kids. That irritated the daylights out of me. I tell you, because how can you have a fight with somebody like that? And it didn't get any better, because later in the week she's saying, "Oh, who believes in you, Charlie Faye?" And she'd catch me on the hall and say, how's your motorcycle? I know you like to ride your dirt bike so much. And who believes in you? Who's here to help you? And it made it harder and harder as the year went by for me to have an attitude. And by the end of the year, she was actually getting me to produce written work. And I was actually feeling really good about it. And what she did, and her name's Brooks Klauser, and she might be watching this, she's still out there. But what did she do? Teachers, the single most important thing, schools, single most important thing here is kids need to feel safe. And when kids feel safe, they feel safe to make mistakes. They feel safe in their relationship with you, safe in their relationship with other kids in the class. Hey, the brain can really start doing its great work that it does. And Daniel, maybe you can comment on the concept of a brain feeling safe and what can happen when kids feel that way.
Well, they don't have to activate their amygdala, their fear center, which just hijacks learning. If you're afraid, you don't have the mental horsepower to learn. And children are just afraid so much. They're afraid of being judged. They're afraid of not being enough. They're afraid of failure. They're afraid of what their parents are going to say. And now, if we take this time where fear has escalated exponentially in our society because of the pandemic, the societal tensions, the political divide, all of a sudden there's just a whole bunch of free-floating anxiety in schools.
That's right. And so one of my concerns, I don't want to call it a fear. Okay. It's a concern is that it's very tempting as educators when we have kids that are coming into our school and we're thinking, okay, I'm tasked as an educator with the job of making sure that these kids learn at high levels. Isn't it easy for all of us, even if we know better, to start getting anxious about that and start ratcheting down on the curriculum? I got to make sure that these kids learn the facts. Got to give them the facts and jump over or skip over the emotional component. And what I'm going to say here, and I'm going to say it loud and clear to you, is that we're not going to see the academic fruit unless we're first getting to the emotional root. And so the emotional and behavioral root. And so this is the bottom line I want to get with you on. There's two things that we need to achieve. And let's just keep it real simple here. Two things. The first is relationship, connection, bonding. And I know, Daniel, you can speak to that after I make my second point. But the first point is relationship. The second point is routine. How badly do all of us desire, or how much do we all desire, some sense of safety through routine? We know what's going to happen. We know what the boundaries are. And as a result, we're able to be creative. Isn't it interesting, friends, when we think about it, that people who don't have, kids who don't have limits are typically not the kids that are the most creative. But it's those kids that have those loving limits from somebody they love and respect are the ones who say to themselves subconsciously, hey, I can go out and explore. You know, I can go out and be creative. And if I make some mistakes, that's okay, because I know where the boundaries are. So those two things, let's lock those in and let's keep it simple. Relationship and those routines. And Daniel, I want you to comment on that, and then I want to give a little more meat to that, some how-tos.
You know, Charles, when I'm thinking of what teachers need to be effective now, and we're going to talk about this with parents, it's they first have to take care of their own mental health or brain health, right? Because if they go into school anxious or angry, we all leak, right? As a parent, I leak. If I'm miserable,
Yes.
I let that misery leak on to other people. And so practicing your own good mental health habits is just critical. And with my patients today, I mean, I do this all the time. I just pray the serenity prayer, right? Because people are, it's like, I have to get vaccinated, I have to wear a mask, I don't want to. And it's like, so what can you do and what can't you do? Always want to stay in the lane of what you can do. Um, and then have a daily practice. And I recommend this we actually have a high school course called Brain Thrive by 25. We teach kids diaphragmatic breathing. But in order to teach kids diaphragmatic breathing, you have to learn it yourself. And so practicing these good habits, breathing, not believing every stupid thing you think, and then, as Charles was saying, relationships key, and it requires really these two things. Time. Charles thrived because the teacher paid attention to him without judgment, but with encouragement. Time and listening. So when kids open up, be a good listener, which means you have to sort of repeat back what they say, and enough long pauses so they'll fill in what's going on in their head. It can just be so helpful.
That is so helpful. And when I think about it, it's really being present with the kids without having a purpose. So we so often feel as professionals like, man, I got to have a purpose. I got to have this all figured out so that I can fix this person. Right? That's a real trap that we can fall into as professionals, as parents, is trying to fix people. And then our minds are so stirred up over, how am I going to fix this person? How am I going to teach this kid the content so they do well on the test, that I'm not really present. And one of the greatest gifts we can give everybody that we run into is being present and saying to yourself, I'm just going to look into this kid's eyes. I'm just going to maybe ask a couple simple little questions and just be there with them without a goal, without some purpose that I have to achieve. And when we can calm ourselves down and deal with anxiety, and to your point, Daniel, that goes right to the issue of our own mental health. Because when I start allowing myself to get unhealthy mentally, physically, something seems to happen. And it's not just me, it's all of us. We tend to try to control the world. We try to control the outcome of every single thing in our life. I start lining up the forks in my silverware drawer so they're just right, and then I get irritated because somebody's put something on my desk that doesn't belong there, and then other drivers just irritate me, and then I try to fix them by grumbling things at them under my breath as I'm driving. And so being with those kids, letting go of the focus on academics and trusting this key point. And I want to slow down a moment and make this an emphasis that if we can focus on the relationship and the routine, and if we can be really healthy people around these kids, you know what? The academics are going to take care of themselves. They really do. I've been doing this for many decades, and I've learned from great people who've been doing this for far more decades than I have, and they all say the same thing. You take care of those two things, those basics, and the academics will take care of themselves.
Well, then children will feel safe, and their brain will have more space to learn. And safety and space are so important But today, with social media and the negative news and all the craziness in our society, it's like there's so much noise going on, and the noise is mostly scary. Um, that children are coming into class anxious, afraid. The routine's been totally disrupted. And what are some other strategies for teachers to deal with anxious kids? And anxiety in boys often comes out as anger or disruptive behaviors. And girls, they may be more, they're more likely to suffer silently, but boys tend to be more disruptive, which is why they get to see the child psychiatrist more often than girls.
That's right. And so I would recommend carrying a Q-tip in your pocket. I know that sounds strange, but carry a Q-tip in your pocket. And when you start getting stressed with the kids, you just feel that Q-tip in your pocket. It'll be a reminder, and you say to yourself, Q-tip, which stands for quit taking it personal. Because so many of the issues that these kids are displaying have very little to do with you, but with all the anxiety and stress that's going on. And see, if I can remember that it's not a personal insult. The kid didn't wake up in the morning and make a written plan about how to make me miserable during the day, right? They're just trying to survive. That's a real important piece there. Then the second thing I'd recommend is going back to what teachers really used to do a whole lot more than they do nowadays. And that is just teaching kids how to behave in a really friendly way. And so teachers who are really successful, they begin the year teaching very little academics and mostly about big and important things like, how do we walk in the hall? You know, how do we do it quietly? Let's practice that. And do you notice my attitude? That's the attitude. It's all about practice. Oh, didn't quite get it that time. Let's try it again. You'll get it. You know, oh, a little noisy that time. Let's try it again. You'll get it. Oh, that's so good. And now, am I just talking about elementary? No, I'm talking about middle school, even high school. I mean, teachers, how many of you know students who do not know how to, they've never really been taught, or they've forgotten how to walk into a room without saying something like, "What's up?" and bringing total attention to themselves. I mean, how many of you know kids who don't know how to sit in a chair quietly? And I know great teachers who just spend time making it fun. Hey, let's all see how long we can sit quietly. You know, those sorts of things. They're really putting a big emphasis on this and teaching the kids things like, you know, you don't have to tell everybody what happened in the bathroom when you get back from the bathroom break, things like that. But the teachers that I worry about the most are the ones where if I went down the hall the first couple of weeks of school and I looked in their room, they'd be in there drilling on the academics. Those are the ones I'd worry about the most. The ones that I'd feel were going to be pretty successful were the ones who were maybe out in the hall, again, practicing walking in the hall. How do you come back into the classroom? All those basic routines and procedures.
So getting into a routine, Sandy writes, the pressures of the curriculum have us in a race to finish the academics every year. But what I hear you saying is we're going to get to the curriculum, that's important.
Right.
But we're going to get there after we have established a routine of how to behave.
Yeah, you know, I had this strange, go ahead, Daniel.
Well, it reminds me of Chloe's second grade teacher, Mrs. Mink. And Chloe loved this teacher. All the kids love this teacher. But she literally spent the first 3 weeks teaching kids what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. And she was firm and kind, which those are the two words that describe great parents. Firm, limits, but with relationship.
Right, right. Yeah, that I had this strange metaphor come into my mind, and that is I have a bucket that I want to fill with water, and I'm pouring the water in it, and it's not going in at all. It's splashing all over the floor. It's because the lid's still on the bucket. Okay, I'm just not going to get any academics in these kids if the lid is still on the bucket, if that protective shell is around that kid, if the amygdala is fired up and they're in survival mode, taking that lid off of the bucket, then it just goes in so much easier. And so here's what we've seen from parents and educators who say to themselves, okay, I'm going to get to the curriculum, but it's not going to be the focus of my every breath, okay? What they end up doing is having higher achieving kids than the ones who pound on the kid, trying to make sure the kid learns the academic content. I've seen the same thing in sports. Some of the greatest athletes that I've run into are the parents who say, well, this summer we didn't sign up for baseball or any extra coaching because he needs a break. He needs to be a kid. And then those are the kids who are excelling above the kids who are being drilled constantly.
Aaron writes, what to do for a first grader who's having a hard time separating from me, mom, in the mornings and gets emotional when I try to leave. And I think, and that's not uncommon. So that's a common thing. And I think it's probably more common with the pandemic because separation anxiety is the kids often they sense the parents' anxiety and that escalates it. So one, take care of your own anxiety. But Charles, what have you recommended in those situations?
Well, we've had a lot of success with this over the years. And by the way, you're not alone. Again, like Daniel said, so common. Okay, I'm going to suggest an experiment to take at least a week, preferably 2 weeks, and don't talk about it with the kid, and don't talk about it in front of the kid, because sometimes it becomes this huge issue, and we try too hard to convince the kid that school is safe. Oh, you're going to have a good time. Everything's fine. Just say to yourself, you're not going to talk about it. And if the kid brings it up, you just give a response like, oh, I know it can feel that way, but you're just going to do great. End of story. No more discussion, okay? Then when you're dropping the child off or they're leaving for the school bus, make it quick. And again, very few words. I've even had parents have to call up the school and say, hey, I'm going to be driving by the school with my child who's having a hard time separating. And when I stop, I'm going to open the door. Please help me extract the child from the car. I'm going to give them a quick kiss on the cheek, and then I'm going to lay rubber out of the parking lot. I'm not going to break any traffic laws, but I'm going to get to the speed limit real fast. And the quicker we can make it, the better. Now, that's heartbreaking for the parent, because you think, oh no, are they going to be okay? Because you love them, right? What teachers say is when the parents handle it quick like that, real confident, the kid eyes dry up really quick. And the first thing the kid asks the teacher is, what's for lunch? Something like that. And they have a great day. When we make too big of a deal of it and we worry about it, that's when the anxiety really gets locked in. Because Daniel, you often say kids are like violins. that they play the adult's stress, right? And I say it's similarly to kids take their emotional cues from the adults around them. And so very few words. That's the most important point.
So no choice, right? I think that's important.
Right.
The law, you have to go to school.
Yep.
But I would also notice sort of what makes it better, what makes it worse, and see it as a problem to solve rather than it's a problem with the child.
Right.
I think that can be really helpful. And like Charles said, get out of the situation as soon as possible, because generally they will shift. And some kids were born with a lot of anxiety. I mean, there's temperament for sure when kids come out of the womb. My oldest daughter would always hide behind my legs. And her sister was always waving to people going, "Hi, my name is Caitlin." So Brianne had more anxiety. Caitlin had less. Caitlin gave me more anxiety. And so I would see it as a problem to solve and be really curious about what sort of makes it better, what makes it worse. I try to teach my patients to be the scientist and the subject. Even is, what did you feed them in the morning? How did they sleep the night before? Have you taught kids not to believe everything they think, which is so important. Aaron also asks about, do you have information on highly sensitive children? I know you've dealt with that a lot over the years.
I have one who is insensitive and one who is very sensitive. And I do want to agree with Daniel on the issue of temperament. So many times we beat ourselves up as parents or even teachers where it's like, oh no, if I just did something different, my kid wouldn't be the way they are. And, honestly, there's a lot of times when we really haven't done much of anything wrong. They have basic personality. And so with sensitive kids, I think that probably the biggest thing is lots and lots of listening, but lots and lots of modeled confidence on the parent's part. So listening to the kid, oh, so yeah, kind of scared about going on to a new grade. That's what I'm hearing from you. Tell me about that. And notice how I'm coming across. Tell me about that. And I'm listening and I'm looking at the kid, and my nonverbal communication is communicating, I value your feelings, but I know you're going to be okay. So much of what we can do for these kids has to do with listening, having a tone or an attitude about us that says things are going to be okay, and then stretching the child. So what do I mean by that? We all need to stretch. It's good for physical health. It's good for mental health. Stretching means that we are put in situations, or we put ourselves in situations that are mildly uncomfortable. They're healthy. They're good things. So for a sensitive or a shy kid, it might be going somewhere and having to maybe have to order your own meal. When you're used to your parents kind of talking for you, you have to speak up and talk to the server at the restaurant and order your own meal. Or maybe it's you have your parents come with you and you have to be the one who talks to the teacher about the problem you're having with your parents there to support you. Mild stretching so that even though the child may always be sensitive, they can learn that they're capable of surviving and thriving in situations that are kind of scary for them. And I just want to say one more thing. I'm so thankful for sensitive kids. They're just so fun to be around most of the time. And I'm also thankful for those strong-willed kids that are go-getters. We need all types.
Well, that goes into another question, how to help a 12-year-old boy who procrastinates and gets oppositional. And that sort of seems like a perfect love and logic situation.
Well, procrastination can have a lot to do with kids not knowing what to do. One of the things I've noticed about an awful lot of kids is that if they don't know exactly what to do, or they feel a little overwhelmed, then as you said, Daniel, when they start feeling anxious about something, they can come across as really nasty and oppositional. And so I think the first step I would take is sitting down with a kid. And I like to say this with kids like this: hey, can I share some ideas with you, as long as I don't tell you what to do? And if you have my permission, that if you feel like I'm telling you what to do, that you can just tell me, hey, Dad, I'm not digging this, so to speak, and I'll back off. Okay, deal? And then I like to use this kind of language. I pick the subject. It might be getting ready for school, or might be completing a chore. And I might say, some people or some kids decide to do such and such to make it easier. And I maybe do the thing with them. But I first of all want to know that they have the skills required to be successful at the task. That's step number one, okay? Step number two, when I know that they can do it, is I'm going to assign them the task. And then in my heart, I'm going to go to prayer. And my prayer is going to be this: oh, please let this go poorly. Because if it goes well, the kid is not going to learn much, right? But I've given them the skills they need. I've taught them. Now I'm hoping and praying that they have an experience with procrastination. And let's say that the kid doesn't, let's say they don't do their schoolwork. Let's just say that happens. And I'm praying that they blow it so I won't nag. That's an important part. Don't nag. Okay, so they go off to school and they don't have their work done. Okay, and now they get home and let's say they complain about their teacher. The next step is allowing the consequences to do the teaching and being very, very empathetic. Oh man, it must be awful to get to school and realize you haven't done your work. And then you feel like your teacher's on your back. Well, listen, son, I'm going to love you regardless of the number of years it takes you to get through middle school. I'm going to love you regardless of the type of life that you create for yourself. And you allow that problem to do the teaching rather than you be the person who does all the teaching.
So I hope you guys are listening to this. This is very important. This is at the core of love and logic, that you teach children to be responsible for themselves. Because if you yell at them, restrict them, belittle them, do their homework for them, you're teaching them to be dependent. You're not teaching them to solve problems.
And dependency is one of the greatest enemies of mental health. When I feel dependent on, other people all the time in unhealthy ways, it's scary. And then I also get mad at myself and them. Let me give you another example, though. Examples are good. So this is a real life example from a family that lives very nearby to me. I'll put it that way. Okay. And they happen to have this teenage son who likes to play baseball and is procrastinating about putting all of his baseball equipment together the night before. Then in the morning, it's a fire drill. So the parents, they say to themselves, we know the right thing, we just not been doing it. So the right thing that morning is they wake up and they kiss their son on the forehead and they say, you are the most precious thing in our life. We love you. And we're so excited to watch you play baseball today. And then they don't say anything else about getting things together. They get themselves together first. Think about it. Put yourself first in a healthy and loving way so that you can be a healthy parent or teacher. And they go off to the field, and in the car they're silently praying, oh please let there be something vital missing in that baseball bag. And a miracle happened that day, which sounds kind of sad, really, but a left-handed kid forgot his glove, and now he's free. You gotta go home and get my glove. Oh honey, that's just that's not going to work for us. Would you like to hear some ideas? What? Well, one idea is to go around and see if you can find anybody else that would share theirs. But regardless, we love you. Now, what do you think the chances are of a left-handed kid finding a glove that's going to fit? And it was a sad day. These parents remark now that it's quite amazing how diligent this kid has gotten about making sure that he has that glove. Question parents and teachers. Who taught him that? Take a moment, let's think about that. Who taught him not to procrastinate? Was it the parents? Nah. He taught himself. Yeah, we might even think about it this way. The best teacher of a strong-willed kid is experience. That strong-willed kid teach themselves.
Yeah, no, people are answering himself. He taught it to himself. And they're oppositional kids that don't do well learning from other people. And Chloe just went off to college last week. She went to TCU, and poor Tana's depressed. But in second grade, I mean, there was this time in second grade that, she was fighting every night to get her homework done. And that's when Tana was just learning love and logic. And I'm like looking at her. I'm like, you've already done second grade. This is for her to do.
Right.
But of course, she wasn't listening to me, but she listened to you. And one night when they were fussing about homework, Tana said, I love you so much. I am never going to ask you to do your homework again. I've done second grade. And if you're okay with the consequences of Mrs. Mink being unhappy with you, and if you really don't do your schoolwork, you're a really nice child, and you'll make friends when you have to repeat second grade. Oh my goodness. Chloe just exploded. I never said I wasn't going to do my homework. I'm just not going to do it now, and stormed off. 20 minutes later, she came down, sat down, got her homework done in 20 minutes, and Tana never again asked her to do her homework. And Chloe graduated from high school with 4.2. I mean, she's just this incredible child who holds all the anxiety and all the responsibility for doing well. And I think Tana's going, she doesn't need me anymore. Well, that's sort of the point. Those are the kind of children you want to raise unless you have low self-esteem. And you don't want to give your low self-esteem to your children, that you get reinforcement by doing for them. That's not raising healthy children. raising healthy children is them being able to do for themselves. But if that wasn't modeled for you, you know, where do you learn it? And that's why parenting or teaching with love and logic is just so powerful. And it's transformative experience.
It is so, and it's we have to override, and as you would say, Daniel, not believe all the things that come into our head. And one of the things we need to push aside is that good parents and good teachers, now this is a lie, good parents and good teachers always make sure that their students or their kids are happy and comfortable and have all the answers and this sort of thing. That's a lie, okay? And teachers, I do want to wrap things up for you with this concept that every one of those students needs a job. I mean, one of the questions that comes up is, how do we create a classroom where the kids get along well with each other? They need jobs, okay? Jobs are a gift from God. That's the way we were created. We were created to feel needed and have a purpose. And so you look around your classroom and you ask yourself, what am I doing that kids could do? Even if it's the tiniest thing. I mean, you should have a couple kids watching the clock to make sure you don't go over. That's their job. But kids need to have lots of those jobs, and they need to be responsible for them, and they need to do a certain amount of the teaching itself. Yeah, that's right. Instructing the other kids, getting up, doing some teaching. It doesn't have to be perfect. But boy, when you get those kids working like that, what you start to realize is that, man, the kids can run this classroom. My job is consultant, or from time to time to reel things in if they get kind of ugly. But man, and kids, when they're around an adult who empowers them, they fall in love with that adult. Because that's the ultimate act of love, is when somebody gives us what we need in order to respond in healthy ways to the challenges that life brings. And then they say to us, I love you. I know you're going to be able to handle this. You want some more ideas? Come and visit. That's love.
So helpful. Well, we have to stop this session, but we're going to continue in 10 minutes. Go to loveandlogic.com. I think it's loveandlogic.com/event. But if you just go to loveandlogic.com, right on the homepage, you can click on the registration link, and we're going to come back and talk about the greatest gift you can give your children during the pandemic. So we are going to save this and post it. You can learn more about the work of the Love and Logic Institute at loveandlogic.com. See you in a few minutes, Charles.
Thank you. See you soon, Daniel.